I would like to share with you a list of 7 statements that perhaps you have made that indicate you've got gospel amnesia. You're forgetting the first message of the gospel, which is we're really bad sinners. So often we bump into sin, we see it, and we're incredulous. And we forget, oh yeah, of course sin happens because we're sinners and we have a tendency to blow it. The gasket goes, and we get angry and we're Vesuvius and we just spill all over everybody because we're so annoyed and frustrated. Sin is a guarantee even in Christian homes. And when you and I forget that, we're not going to respond rightly. Now, please do not hear that I'm not suggesting if your child sins, your husband, wife sins, that there are not consequences. But what I am saying is our response to sin should not be so shocked. Here would be the first, which happens to be number 7, where you can have gospel amnesia. When I was your age, what are we basically saying when we utter that all too familiar phrase? When I was your age, I never acted like that. When I was your age, we respected adults. We never did those types of things when I was your age. It was a different time when I was your age. You're forgetting the first message of the gospel. When you were that sinner's age, you were a sinner too. Now, this is especially true with this particular statement because time has a tendency to erase how bad we really were, and we also happen to have this opinion of ourselves that's a little bit higher than it should be. So when we see kids at Target that are falling down having spasms, well, when I was their age, we never acted like that. Really? You mean when you were their age, you never sinned? You mean when you were their age, you never sass-mouthed your parents? Not only are you having gospel amnesia, you're just having flat-out amnesia because you were a little wicked sinner just like all of the other born in Adam sinners. Another way we forget the gospel, kids these days, kind of related to number 7. These kids don't act the way we used to act because I have gospel amnesia and I'm forgetting the first message of the gospel on number 5. How many times do I have to tell you? I don't know. How many times is a sinner going to sin? How many times did you need to be told? In fact, could I ask you a question? That sin that perhaps you struggle with, how quick was it for you to just get rid of that? Whatever your bag was, we've all got them. Was it just, and somebody say to you, how many times are you going to do that? And then you went, oh, sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. I'll just stop sinning now. We have a tendency to think that we're mostly victorious over sin, whereas other people aren't. How many times do I have to tell you? Well, it might be 70 times 7. How many times do I have to tell you? Here's a question for you. How many times does God tell you, that kind of hurt, didn't it? How many times do you need to read in the Bible to not gossip, to not say slanderous things about the brethren on your way to Cracker Barrel after church? How many times do you need to look and read in the Bible that says, if your eyes are looking at objects they shouldn't look at, you're committing adultery in your heart? How many times do we need to be told, now this is not to get into the issue of somebody who is living in a willful, unrepentant lifestyle of sin, but here's the reality. We human beings, whether we are pagans or whether we are Christians, we still sin. And in order to remove the attitude that says, how many times do I have to tell you? What we simply need to do is ask ourselves, how many times does God need to tell us? Another way we have a gospel amnesia. What is the matter with you? Ooh, pick me for this one. What's the matter with that sinner? They're a sinner. That's the first message of the gospel, that we are all sinners who are daily sinning and daily receiving mercy from our very gracious God, who never asks us the question, what is the matter with you? Because he knows that we are frail and that we have this flesh that clings to us. And even though we have one new nature, we're not two natures, an old man and a new man combined together. We're a new person in Jesus Christ. We still have this flesh that says, do it, try it, give it a go. It'll feel really good. You want that, don't you? You deserve it. And we have a tendency to listen, and then we sin, and God never goes, what's the matter with you? He knows we're sinners. Another way we forget the gospel. Number 3, I can't believe you did what? I can't believe you did what? Now, I've said this too. By the way, the reason I was able to write this list, I happen to know people who forget their belts, who maybe have some insight into this. I can't believe you sinned. That's what we're saying. I can't believe you sinned. Or maybe I can't believe you did that again. I can't believe you sinned again. We need to remember the first message of the gospel, not to excuse sin, not to pretend it doesn't exist and be Pollyanna-ish, but so that we don't get mad at people, so that we don't find ourselves exasperated and then pulling out the big guns and blasting away. Another way we forget the gospel, how dare you? And this one's a little tricky. How dare somebody sin? As if we would never commit such a high-handed crime. We would never dare do that. How dare you do that, sinner? Oh yeah, they dare to do that because they're a sinner. And the final way we forget the first message of the gospel, I am so disgusted with you. It reveals we can't even imagine that somebody could sin. How do you and I not forget the first message of the gospel? It's by remembering the gospel. It's by remembering ourselves every single day. It's by doing a little self-examination, maybe at the beginning of the day, to remember what a wicked, vile sinner that we are, that Jesus died for us, so when we bump into other vile, wicked sinners, we're not just absolutely shocked that they would sin.